On this Monday night, the Conservatives' campaign promised to build a national energy corridor. The plan to fast-track approval for pipelines in the face of U.S. tariffs.
It is time to turn Canada into an economic fortress.
What critics say the idea is lacking. The powerful storm that left hundreds of thousands of Ontarians powerless.
I've been using an upside-down pot over a candle for a heater.
The damage and the falling temperatures. Wisconsin's tightly contested Supreme Court election. How Elon Musk is accused of trying to buy votes.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The U.S. president promised to bring down prices for American consumers, but Donald Trump now says he doesn't care if the cost of vehicles go up because of the tariffs he's imposing. The world will find out on April 2nd what the U.S. president intends to do. Trump calls it Liberation Day. He could put across-the-board tariffs on everything that's imported by the U.S. from everywhere.
They're reciprocal. So whatever they charge us, we charge them, but we're being nicer than they were. We have a lot of countries, friend and foe. I always say friend and foe, but the friend in many cases is worse than the foe.
St. John, New Brunswick is #1 on the list of Canadian cities that could lose lots of jobs, and it's where the federal Conservative leader was campaigning today. Heidi Petracek is at a Conservative campaign rally. Heidi.
Donna, there was a large and enthusiastic crowd here in Fredericton to hear Pierre Poilievre speak, and he reiterated the message that he delivered earlier in St. John, one he hopes will resonate with potential voters across the country who are worried about the damage Trump's tariffs could do.
We will unleash an incredible economic boom that will turn Canada into a fortress. Billions of dollars.
That's what the Conservative leader said his national energy corridor would create. Pierre Poilievre's plan for an oil and gas industry faced with Trump's tariffs.
Will allow our incredible businesses to build pipelines, transmission lines.
He made the announcement in St. John, New Brunswick, home of the Irving Oil Refinery, which sells most of its crude to the States.
Making us even more dependent on what is now a very aggressive southern neighbor.
Poilievre's proposal would pre-authorize permits for big projects like a west-to-east pipeline, make them legally binding, and would scrap Ottawa's Impact Assessment Act, which places additional scrutiny on governments and industries.
Do I think that the Impact Assessment Act could do with massive amendments? Absolutely. For the energy.
But this public policy and energy expert says that doesn't mean it should be tossed altogether, and cautions lack of regulation and consultation can be just as harmful as too much when trying to attract investors.
We are at a moment in time where maybe we could get this done, but it will be complicated.
And any new initiatives will need a business case.
To get Energy East or something like it, you need to have assurance that you're going to have growing oil production.
While campaign promises like this don't change what Trump decides to do.
These are all parts of the transitional space that we're in, that we need to be looking at ways that we can make use of the resources we've got.
They do change conversations, all sparked by U.S. tariffs and the federal election.
Not everybody likes the Conservatives' platform. The leader of the Bloc Québécois, Yves-François Blanchet, earlier today called the idea of a west-to-east pipeline a fantasy meant to win votes. The Bloc's platform is dead set against pipelines on Quebec soil. Donna.
Heidi Petracek at a Conservative rally in Fredericton tonight. Thanks. Canada's Prime Minister says he told President Trump Canada will impose retaliatory tariffs on American goods if sweeping levies are put in place on April 2nd. Today, Liberal leader Mark Carney was back on the campaign trail and standing by a Liberal candidate in Ontario. Paul Chiang, in an interview with a Chinese-language newspaper, said people should turn in his Conservative rival to Chinese officials to collect a bounty. Chiang has since apologized. Mackenzie Gray explains why Carney is resisting calls to remove him as a candidate.
Mr. Chiang is well aware of these issues.
After campaigning as Captain Canada, Mark Carney is standing behind a candidate who parroted Chinese communist talking points.
He's made his apology. He made it to the public. He made it to the individual concerned, made it directly to me, and he's going to continue with his candidacy. Thank you.
The apology coming from Paul Chiang, the MP and Liberal candidate in Markham-Unionville, who proposed turning in Conservative candidate and Chinese pro-democracy advocate Joe Tay to the Chinese consulate in Toronto to claim a bounty put on him by Hong Kong police.
I am deeply offended by those comments. As I said, they're terrible lapse of judgment. I view this as a teachable moment.
Why you need to teach someone not to say that, confounding to this democracy advocate.
Teaching moment without consequences is not good enough. People have to pay the price.
Chuck Kwan's organization, one of 13 Chinese diaspora groups, now calling on the Liberals to replace Chiang, which they can until April 7th, something the Conservatives and the NDP seem to support.
He's putting his party ahead of his country in that case. I think that's wrong. And I think Canadians should find that wrong as well.
Global News went to Chiang's campaign office for comment, but he wasn't there. Tay also didn't respond to an interview request, but did post a statement saying Chiang's apology was not sufficient and that he'd previously been speaking with the RCMP regarding his safety.
More traditional.
Something raised by the special government committee that monitors foreign election interference.
Spreading again the information about the bounty is precisely how malign foreign states seek to silence, harass, and coerce.
Chiang was not one of the Toronto area MPs who flanked Carney today, but one who did was miffed by the comments.
It's above my pay grade. I haven't talked to Paul about it in the same way the Prime Minister has. They're absurd. How could someone possibly have said these things? I have no idea what he was thinking.
Mackenzie, Carney was asked about that candidate today, but the issue he wanted to talk about was housing. What campaign promises did he make?
He's proposing a whole new housing agency, Donna, called Build Canada Homes, that he says will get shovels in the ground to help get housing starts up to $500,000 a year.
We're getting government back in the business of building affordable homes. Acting as a developer, Build Canada Homes will work with industry to build affordable homes at scale.
The new agency will get $36 billion in different types of financing to kick things off, but Carney's also pitching to cut municipal development charges in half, bring back a tax credit first developed in the 70s to encourage multi-unit rentals, and lastly, remove the GST on new builds under $1 million for first-time homebuyers, Donna. That GST plan is a near carbon copy of something Pierre Poilievre announced months ago.
Okay, Mackenzie Gray in Georgetown, Ontario tonight. Thanks. Hundreds of thousands of people are still without power across parts of southern Ontario, and many communities north of Toronto have now declared states of emergency. A weekend ice storm coated power lines and trees with thick layers of ice. That weight caused hundreds of trees and branches to snap and power lines to fall. Hydro crews are working to fix the lines, but say power in some areas may not be restored until Tuesday or Wednesday. Global's Sean O'Shea is in Midland, Ontario on Georgian Bay. Sean.
Don, I'm standing in front of a house here in Midland, Ontario, population 17,000, and you can see what happened. The tree came down, took out part of the veranda here at the house, and this is a common sight in parts of Ontario over the weekend. The fact that hundreds of thousands of people have lost power because the ice storm, which began on Saturday and has continued through the weekend, was beautiful to look at, but it was destructive in its very nature. Again, so many people without power, that means they do not have heat in their homes. Here in Midland, the downtown entirely closed. Businesses are shuttered for the day, the court's not working, and all people care about is getting their power back because the weather is getting colder here. But putting back the pieces, putting the power back all online, that is no easy feat, and that's the task that is at hand here today. Donna?
All right, Sean O'Shea in Midland, Ontario. Thanks, Sean. Canadians are being warned to be on high alert for symptoms of measles now that families have returned from March break travel. While a measles outbreak in Ontario appears to be stabilizing, there are concerns cases could explode on the West Coast. As Heather Yorks West reports, Alberta has now recorded measles cases in every part of that province.
In this Northern Alberta First Nations community, there is good news.
Our vaccination rates in the schools are now, one of the top vaccination rates in Northern Alberta.
The Little Red River Cree Nation has been working hard to roll out the measles vaccine after 9 community members fell ill earlier this month. All have now recovered, but across Alberta, measles numbers are on the rise. 2 new cases were reported Monday, bringing the total to 23 this year. All but 1 have been children.
So I'm not surprised that we're seeing it across the different zones because we know that across our 5 zones we have unimmunized or under-immunized people.
Dr. Cora Konstanescu worries Alberta will soon see the same level of measles spread that parts of Ontario have been experiencing. Vaccination can prevent infection of the highly contagious disease, but in some communities, vaccine coverage is dangerously low. leaving children vulnerable to a potentially fatal disease.
20%, so 1 in 5 children with measles will end up in hospital.
In the U.S., public health and vaccine programs have been politicized, with the new U.S. Health Secretary sharing dangerous misinformation about the measles vaccine. And while Alberta's chief medical health officer has yet to speak publicly about the uptick in cases, messaging from BC's top doctor has been direct.
The evidence we have over these many decades of using this very important vaccine shows that the vaccine is safe and highly protective. And to be clear, vitamin A, zinc, cod liver oil do not prevent or treat measles.
With Alberta students returning from spring break travel, measles cases here could rise sharply in the coming days. Heather Urex West, Global News, Calgary.
Elon Musk is stirring things up again. He is giving away $1 million checks to voters in Wisconsin ahead of a tightly contested Supreme Court election there. Voters will decide whether conservative or liberal judges take control of the state's highest court. Jackson Proskow explains what's at stake and why Musk has thrust himself into the center of it.
In deeply divided Wisconsin, an election to decide control of the state's Supreme Court has grown into something much bigger.
And it's become kind of a referendum on the Trump administration. People are thinking about what's going on in Washington.
How can they not when Elon Musk has inserted himself into the race, spending millions of his own money boosting conservative judge Brad Schimmel in the race against liberal Susan Crawford?
The importance of the election on Tuesday is gigantic.
Over the weekend, Musk handed out 2 $1 million checks to voters after offering $100 to everyone who signed a petition against so-called activist judges.
He's trying to buy the election. He's trying to pay people to vote. It's illegal.
I don't think that Musk is doing anything that the left hasn't done for many years.
It's a repeat of tactics Musk used in Pennsylvania during last November's presidential election, drawing protests and court challenges.
Not for sale! Not for sale!
Musk is the only billionaire offering money directly to voters, but he's not the only one involved in the race. George Soros has given $2 million to Wisconsin Democrats, about 1/10 of what Musk has spent.
This should not be a partisan issue. If we value democracy, we can't allow our presidents, our members of Congress, our state Supreme Court justices to be chosen by billionaires.
All the while, the stakes of Tuesday's election remain incredibly high. Whoever controls the court will decide key issues, including abortion access and voting districts, not to mention the message voters choose to send. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
Barred from running for office, coming up why a far-right leader in France is blocked from presidential elections in 2027. In Myanmar, more survivors were pulled from the rubble 3 days after that powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake. Rescuers freed 4 people buried beneath the debris in Mandalay, the city closest to the quake's epicenter. In Thailand's capital, signs of life have been detected under the skyscraper that collapsed. More than 2,000 people have died in Myanmar. It's expected the number will grow as the scale of the devastation becomes clear. Israel issued a sweeping evacuation order for Palestinians in southern Gaza today, telling people to leave Rafah and Han Yunis, warning intense military operations are resuming. Israel also proposed an extended truce in exchange for about half of the remaining 24 hostages still believed to be alive. It was a day of high political drama in France. Far-right politician Marine Le Pen was found guilty of embezzling funds from the European Parliament, and the sentence has ruined her plans to run for president in 2027. Le Pen calls the ruling a denial of democracy, says she will appeal, and as Redmond Shannon reports, other nationalist and populist figures have rushed to her defense.
Marine Le Pen left the Paris court before the judges even finished delivering their verdict. They found her and 23 other members of her National Rally Party guilty of embezzlement. The judges said she was at the heart of a system that used European Union money intended to pay for party staff in the EU Parliament for national rallies' domestic operations. The prosecution said the outcome was always clear. Le Pen was fined and sentenced to 2 years house arrest pending her appeal. But the judges decided that the 5-year ban on her running for public office should take effect immediately. Le Pen came out swinging, declaring her innocence, calling it a political decision to block her from running for the French presidency. But the same French law was applied last year to ban centrist lawmakers too, from the party of France's Prime Minister. Populist leaders across Europe posted messages of support for Le Pen. Hungary's Viktor Orban saying, "Je suis Marine," I am Marine. Le Pen now faces a race to take a 4th shot at the presidency in 2027.
French justice is notoriously slow, so she will appeal. Whether that takes less than 2 years remains to be seen.
If that fails, her replacement will almost certainly be the party president, the relatively inexperienced 29-year-old Jordan Bardella.
The judgment does not mean Le Pen has to leave her seat in the French National Assembly immediately. She can stay on as a deputy until the next parliamentary election, which is up to 4 years away. Donna?
Redmond Shannon in London, thanks. Spaced out ahead, what those 2 NASA astronauts are saying about their extended time in space. The 2 NASA astronauts who unexpectedly spent 9 months in space are back on Earth now and talking about their travels. Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams were never really abandoned or stranded on the International Space Station. They became part of the crew. Mike Armstrong looks at how they're doing now.
You're beginning to see that plasma trail.
This is one of the moments that sticks out for astronaut Butch Wilmore, hurtling home, unable to see out the windows because of the flames.
I can tell you that returning from space to Earth through the atmosphere inside of a 3,000 degree fireball of plasma is weird, regardless of how you look at it.
Now, any trip home was welcome for Wilmore and Sunny Williams. When the 2 launched back in June of last year, they were supposed to be gone basically a week. When their Boeing Starliner spacecraft first had thruster problems docking, then a helium leak, an 8-day mission turned into nearly 300 days.
So I'm going to lead you.
Williams says there's a life lesson for anyone on how to focus on unforeseen opportunities.
When something doesn't go your way, you just have to take the blinders off and look around you and see what other really great things are waiting for you.
Oh, looks like we're getting our next crew member here.
Now back on Earth, the 2 are working hard at rehabilitation. They're feeling well enough both are able to run again. They've spent as much time as possible with family. As for what craving they fed after months of space food, Williams says what she wanted was her late father's favorite food.
I had a good grilled cheese sandwich when I got home, so that reminded me of him.
The 2 are set to meet Boeing officials Wednesday to discuss what went wrong with the Starliner spacecraft. But Wilmore says space travel is a team sport and no one is without blame. Would he go back up in it again?
Yes.
In a heartbeat.
Because we're going to rectify all the issues that we encountered.
Yeah.
We're going to fix them.
Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Spread your tiny wings and fly away, and take the snow back with you wherever it came from on that.
Canada's biggest night in music honors Anne Murray. Next, how she put national pride center stage at the Junos.
And if I could, you know.
Before there were big Canadian stars like Celine Dion or Sarah McLachlan or Nelly Furtado, there was Anne Murray. She was the first female Canadian solo artist to reach #1 on music charts in the United States, and she went on to win 4 Grammys and more than 24 Juno Awards. Last night, she accepted a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Junos, and as Eric Sorensen reports, her lifetime of patriotism captured the moment Canada is in.
At this moment in this country, Anne Murray, in that sequin jersey, is a perfect symbol of Canada's place, not just in the world of music, but in the world at large.
Beneath its snowy mantle, cold and clear.
She became an international star, a voice that was tranquil yet powerful, the first Canadian female solo singer to reach #1 on the U.S. charts. She remembers the insecurity around Canadian music.
Canadians would say, oh, that she's Canadian, she can't be much good.
But she was. She sold 55 million records worldwide while building the Canadian music industry at home.
People smile and tell me I'm the lucky one.
She was all over Canadian radio in the early 1970s. The fact that she stayed here while simultaneously doing well internationally was a real milestone for the development of the Canadian music industry.
She was among the music legends who put Canada on the map. But this snowbird always came home to support the Anne Murray Centre in her hometown, Spring Hill, Nova Scotia, or to launch a cross-Canada tour in the winter.
Only a Canadian, only a crazy old Canuck who would travel across Canada at that time of year, but what the heck.
Anne Murray blazed a trail for so many other popular female artists from this country who found success in music. Sarah McLachlan presented Murray with the Lifetime Achievement Award, her 26th Juno, a record. In a country reasserting its identity, Anne Murray and her music have been a safe haven for more than half a century. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Drumheller, Alberta, water taxis in Victoria, BC, and the castle at Yellowknife's Snow King Winter Festival. Keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.